This week on Baseball Biz on Deck, we ask the question, the Rays go to college? That's right. The Hillsborough Community College is working with the Rays, and we're going to go into the depth of what their agreement is at this point. Plus, we will look at upcoming fan fests and what's happening with MLB caps with players and how that will impact the game. So let's get started.
Right on.
Welcome to Baseball Biz on Deck, and with a very special Raise Up edition. Mr. Matt Germain's here, and I'm Mark Carpet, and we're going to have some fun today. How's it going, Matt?
I'm living the dream, Mark, and wishing the winter was over already. Ready for spring training.
I'm with you. I'm with you about the winter is over because I'm seeing what's coming down in the south. You're up here in dear sweet north, but geez, I'm looking up around Atlanta and some other places. What's coming through this next week? I keep thinking back to a few years ago when it was like ice sledding everywhere. So I don't know. It's going to be a very interesting week for a lot of us down people in the south who aren't used to that kind of weather. So we'll see what happens. But the weather vane was twisting in Tampa the other day. And I got the notice that, guess what? The Board of Trustees at Hillsborough Community College were going to talk about an MOU. And I thought, oh, what's something with cows? I don't know. Maybe there's an agricultural school. No. Okay. What is that? It is a memorandum of understanding, which this is what something the Rays have put in front of the executive board or executive trustee board for Hillsborough Community College in regards to, hey, let's have a serious conversation about having a space on your campus. And so nothing said, boys and girls. Matt and I sung that song so many times. But I have to tell you, Matt, it was great to get the news. I got the news on, what was it, MLK Day? No, I think it was the day after MLK that the actual news went out. So it was like that morning. And so I got in the car, hustled down to the campus to be at the trustees meeting. And it started at 4:00 and it was done at 4:30.
Mm-hmm.
Don't you like meetings like that? How many times have we sat in the meeting? You and I both have worked in corporate and such, and where you're like, good Lord, pulling teeth. Can they ever shut up? It's been done. Well, it was a foregone conclusion with this meeting in many ways, but it was still good to see Ken Babby get out there and speak. It was interesting as I pulled up to the building to go in there, and I'm getting out of the car, and I look behind me, and I see the shadow of Raymond James Stadium back there, man, the Bucks. And then I look to the other side, and I say, well, dang, there's George Steinbrenner Stadium. And 5 minutes earlier, I'd passed not the Amalie Arena anymore, whatever they call it, to the Bancroft where the Lightning play. So this has been such a central apex in Tampa for so many teams. I am excited about seeing the Rays there. And after seeing that view going into that session, I expected great things to come. Now, as in many of these meetings, before they make a judgment and say the board votes yea or nay on moving forward to accept the memorandum of understanding, basically say, hey, let's have a conversation. There you have people speak. Anybody wants to come. First, they allow the students to speak. And there were no students. The place was, it was chock full of media folks. You couldn't help but trip over cords and cameras and people with microphones everywhere. But I had to think about it, man. One, it's the day after MLK Day. Students are just getting back in there, too. If the news didn't get out to that morning, maybe many of them didn't care, too, because it is a junior college. It's where you get your associate's degree or you're getting your electives taken care of or whatever at that point. I don't know. I don't want to disregard what the kind of college does because I've been there and I've taken classes there. But I don't think there's the involvement of students that you would think that there might be with something like this going on.
Or they weren't told.
Or they weren't told. That's what I'm thinking too, because if the news went out Tuesday morning, and because I just came across it looking at Facebook, oh, yeah, well, I better get down there. But it may have not been promoted much, and maybe because it was a foregone conclusion. However, they did allow staff and employees to speak out, and one of the people, I believe it was a professor, he had some concerns because of all the students who actually reside down there and talking about with this new development, there may be housing, but what's the cost going to be like? And I got news for you, man. Matt, cost of living in Tampa is stupid. It's crazy high. And if they're going through the housing they have there, I can't imagine that they're already paying a lot. I'm not saying that it wouldn't be an increased burden, but I felt like it was a non-argument, if you will. Another gentleman got up there and he spoke. So I think it was Joe. I can't Joe's last name at the moment. He got up there, was from West Tampa, and had a lot to share as well. And he had said West Tampa is a baseball town. He didn't say necessarily the cradle of baseball around here, but when you look at everybody who's come from West Tampa and the Ybor area, whether it be Lou Pinella, Al Lopez, David Magadan, Tino Martinez, Luis Gonzalez, he goes on. Pete Alonso. Pete Alonso's not actually West Tampa, but he's from the general area there as well. So he talked about how things have been strong in Tampa, that this need to be done. Let's see here. I did want to look what's coinciding with this, Matt. Now, you and I have been talking recently about Kauffman Stadium and what was going also on with the Kansas City Chiefs, and one maybe in tandem with the other. So in today's Tampa Bay Times, there's an article. Hillsborough County approves Tampa Bay Lightning. County will be putting $250 million in a commitment for renovations to the arena, and that's going to be drawing that from their tourist development tax. Lightning will be putting up an additional $75 million for taking care of that arena. Now, if that doesn't sound like some sweet money,
yeah,
I don't know what we'll see from our good friends if they're going to give the raise. Now, some are saying this doesn't indicate anything else, but if you look at the Tampa Bay Buccaneers and Raymond James Stadium, their lease is expiring in 2028. And I guarantee you, they're going to be talking about getting some money there as well.
Yeah.
So some natives may be saying, I don't know if this is what I want to do. I don't know if this is where I want to be with all this. As far as tax dollars being spent, here's one for you. I did not realize that the governor had played baseball for Yale.
Oh,
yeah.
I had no idea either.
Yeah, he had something to say. He said they wouldn't be financing the stadium. He said you could draw 25,000 in this area with the right circumstances. He was going on about that. It could be a good venue. But if you're starting to do that, well, then all of a sudden the viability of everything really goes up. He went on about the big markets, about how the Dodgers have got so much this and that and the other. And wouldn't it be nice if the Rays would be able to drive at least like 25,000 there? It could happen. But I'm throwing a lot at you there, Matt, because it was interesting. But kind of critically at the end of it all, the trustees on the executive board up there decided, yes, we agree to the memorandum of understanding, the MOU, and we want to go ahead and move forward. And the Rays responded saying, great. And when are you going to have something to us? They asked the Rays and said 180 days. We should have things. And they talk about the CCR, the covenants, conditions, restrictions, all of that, the things they have to go through. So we will see that. But it's my mind was floating everywhere because I hear CCR, and the first thing my mind goes to is John Fogerty, okay? And Credence, center field. But so what happens on my drive back from there? I turn on NPR and they got the Tiny Desk concert and it's John Fogerty. And I said, oh, I don't know. But it was an exciting day, a bit of an inspiring day, a lot of talk. Even the mayor, they were asking her a thing or two, and somebody said, traffic's so bad. And she said, we've managed traffic pretty well down there. And I can tell you've been going to that NFL game a couple of weeks ago down at Raymond James that, yeah, it takes a little while to get out of there, but it really wasn't that bad. It was less, I don't know what oppressive is the word really to use for Tropicana parking, but it was less negative than when I'm at getting in and out of the Trop, because that can be something.
Yeah, I think that the important part here is to set the stage for what is an MOU. So you're talking about students. These are one of the things that you'll learn about in business school, like what what is it that you're actually talking about when you're talking about a memorandum of understanding, which is what's happening in this case? It's basically the foundation, the first step that you, and the Rays have done this numerous times so far when it comes to MOUs. They had numerous of them with St. Petersburg, right? Before they got towards agreements, which they eventually did sign with St. Petersburg. So before we get way too excited about anything, we have to know what that means. So, memorandum of understanding is an agreement where they basically lay out who's going to be responsible for what as they mutually cooperate towards something to be agreed upon. So, it's not binding by any means for anyone. It just basically says, okay, when it comes to plumbing, you're in charge. When it comes to this, you're in charge. When it comes to, and it lays down all the little particular details, including the potential funding avenues that they may have in this case. And I think it's important because this one is big, Mark. Like you're talking about a football team, like you mentioned, you're talking about a minor league team that's there, that's owned by the Yankees, that has to get sorted out at some time. There's a lot of chess pieces that need to be played for everything to work out. And every single one of those parties will have, like you mentioned, the school will have an idea of what the critical aspects for them are. The business side will have which stores, which additions, restaurants, all the kinds of things that you would want to have in a battery park development area. Like everybody's going to have their own version in their head. So they're going to have to like argue a little bit about what's going to get played
Oh yeah.
where and how big it's going to be. And the transport is a big one. So I know in Montreal, when you're talking about the stadium potentially going in and getting built on the south shore of the island of Montreal, one of the big things that came out was that they didn't want to have a significant amount of parking there. They wanted people to have to be either driven in by subway, bus, taxi, biking, walking, any kind of transport except for vehicles as much as they could,
Yeah.
so that it would alleviate a lot of the traffic issues you're talking about. But I know you guys don't have a subway in Tampa. It's one of those things where I think the investments in transportation have been significant and they can be focused in certain ways that kind of help things out. So yeah, I'm really excited for you guys because I do think there's something to be said about having a centralized sports venue area, an events venue. Like this isn't only going to help baseball. It's not, it's going to help the Rays become part of the conscience of the same fans that go to Buccaneers games, as the same fans that go to Lightning games, and to become and to start to build this sports culture in Tampa that also allows for events to take place there. So we talk about, I don't want to say that Tampa Bay would host the Summer Olympics, but if you did head that way down the road at some point in time, or a similar style competition, you could feasibly bid on it now because you've got a whole bunch of facilities co-located. You've got the ability to handle a significant amount of fans. I think Tampa Bay does have the chance to become an internationally known city if it wants to head that direction down the road. So it's not, I don't see it just as a race thing. It also starts to differentiate Tampa Bay from Orlando as a destination. So when you're talking about Battery Park and what it does for Atlanta, the same could be said for Tampa Bay. If you have the aquarium, you have this, that, the other thing that you guys do have as attractions, and then you add this as a venue where there's always an event going on of some sort, it attracts a lot more people to your coast because for any Canadian that travels down to Florida, you have people that are Fort Lauderdale centric and will stay on the southern tip. You have people that will stay on the East Coast, and then you have the people that will stay on the West Coast. And there's almost like three different distinct versions of Canadians. And then you have the ones that are just going there for Disney in that one year or whatever. So I think it's interesting to know like that kind of development to me can help differentiate Tampa Bay from all of those eastern Florida cities by making it one of those bigger event areas.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to be neat to see that. And you bring up as far as like the folks who come down here from Canada, and my mind's jumping. We'll come right back to MOU, but I'm thinking about the World Baseball Classic coming up. There's going to be an exhibition game in Dunedin where the Blue Jays had their spring training, and the Blue Jays are going to be playing Canada. They're going to be playing the Canada team. That's be interesting looking across and see if your playmates. But coming back to what you're saying, as far as yeah, to be able to have this, one of the people are talking about the everything here with Hillsborough Community College with this that it is making it a destination, making it a sports destination. And they're already have the women's, I think, NCAA championship for basketball has been here in the past. There's with the Lightning and other tournaments coming through. I can tell you, working at the museum, I'll be there and suddenly there'll be somebody from Colorado. And I'm like, curious. I ask them always where they came from and what brought them in. There's this lacrosse tournament from the NCAA going. I thought, what? There's so much there. And this is, I can see it only as a way to increase that activity even more so as far as economically doing better. And it seems like they're on a good groundwork here to begin with. And quite honestly, Matt, one of the things that's part of the solution, I mentioned Ron DeSantis. He is a supporter of the race, but he's not going to be putting bucks up. He said he would do stuff as far as infrastructure or anything else that they could help with. He would do that. So that was good to hear. But it's not surprising the governor has placed people in colleges across Florida. I'm not going to get into the politics of that. I'll just say in this particular instance, I'm okay with it.
I go back to the whole Stu Sternberg versus your governor
Oh,
in terms
gosh.
of the animosity that existed because of personal beliefs and a whole bunch of other issues.
Yeah,
So that doesn't exist. So it opens the door for so much more to be done for the Rays in this case as part of this development. So it's nice to see that. It's sad that it couldn't be done the other way. I say it's sad. It doesn't really
understandable.
matter to us who owns the team when it happens.
Right.
But I do think that in this case, like the whole concept and the idea of what they're working towards makes a whole lot more sense. I still like the design of the stadium in Evo. I
Hmm.
don't know what that development would have looked like, but I hope that they go for a stylish, distinct stadium
Yeah.
when we start seeing drawings so that it does stand out as an architectural piece.
I think they'll do that. I know they want to make this a place where people want to come. And let's see. Oh, if I can bring that up. One of the things was that I was looking at, let's see, they're calling part of this the innovation edge. And I'm trying to find the breakdown here. Give me a moment. While I'm looking for that, it is interesting to note that I think the folks with the Orlando Dreamers are probably going to have to wait a while. Jeez.
But again, Mark, like I think there's an opportunity for a second league. I
Yeah.
really do. And I think that you were up to 14, 15 teams, maybe even 16 that you could have people bid on. And I don't know if they started themselves and they come up with their own governance or if they do it as part of MLB. Whichever way works best, I think the stadiums are like you're talking about the 25,000, right? The bar has been set so low when it comes to attendance now. You could almost run this new league if they don't do blackouts and they allow people to watch it and they can insert a few of the rules that MLB wants to try and see how they work out. They could become the testing grounds of that. But they would be professional. They wouldn't be subjugated to the same minor league system that takes in place right now. I think there's a viable thing for that. Like just listing the cities and the ownership groups that would be a part of it, it would be a very competitive and enticing league for a lot of players who aren't getting paid very much by MLB teams to jump to. Like right now, we're looking at a list of free agents that aren't going to make much. A lot of times, these players are signing AAA deals that are not worth
Yeah.
for them their time. Why not go to a team that's actually a professional that has the chance to become an MLB team the next season and be a full part of the core of that team and get the playing time, TV time, etc., that you wouldn't have gotten down in AAA. I don't see why they wouldn't do that, Mark. And it would bring so much more attention and coverage. Like you're talking about fans and how far they have to travel to go to a certain level of playing game. This would help with all of that, right? And give teams another team to cheer for. I just see only positives, to be honest. I don't understand why it wouldn't happen.
I like the idea of what you're saying though, too, as far as another league, if you will. I enjoy talk about going to spring training, but also enjoy watching the minor leagues here. To
Mhm.
be able to see a professional team where I'm not going to have to spend $100 to go through the gate and for each person, that's something I can enjoy. Something where I can sit back, relax, and see somebody that's hungry, somebody who wants to make it to the show. And that
Yeah.
is important to me. So I like that idea a lot. We'll see what the Dreamers do.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I'm going to be curious because I mean, you brought this up time and time again on the show about the whole thing, what kind of deal the Yankees and Rays will have to work out if they're going to be moving over here. Go ahead and talk about a couple of options, potential
Right.
trades.
Exactly. So it depends on what the intent for the Yankees would be. Obviously, they don't use the Steinbrenner Field area simply for the single A affiliate that they have there. They also use it as their spring training destination. So with that in mind, I thought that if you're going to be leaving the Trop and you're going to be leaving St. Petersburg area, maybe St. Petersburg wants to adopt the Yankees as the team that they have in terms of a focus on the like smaller scaled version of what they would have done with the Rays essentially. So then it would become the focal point of that area. They'd have their spring training facility there. That might be a tougher sell for St. Petersburg because it's not as flashy and
Yeah.
high attractive. So I don't know how much they would be in play on that. The other version is that the Rays ownership have two franchises that they could pick from. So they could theoretically give them access to the Jacksonville team
Mm.
and move that AAA affiliate somewhere else, depending on how they work it. It could be Orlando, as where the Dreamers want to have a team, etc. And then you have the Yankees build up their spring training facilities in that Jacksonville franchise location. Or there's Akron, but that's not a spring training destination. So
No.
I see it more likely as Jacksonville being the one. So at that point, you have to evict and come to an agreement with the Marlins at the same time in terms of where they're going to go. So then, okay, then now you're like, okay, the Marlins can go into the Trop area and become that point. So there's a whole merry-go-round of possibilities between St. Pete, Orlando, Jacksonville, and come to an agreement where everybody's happy. I don't think the Yankees, yeah, I know they're embedded in Tampa Bay, and that's probably part of the problem, in my opinion,
Yeah.
with the whole fandom of Rays, basically. Maybe that this last year where they invited the Rays to, or they profited, I should say, from the Rays playing in their Steinbrenner Stadium because the Rays
Yeah.
did have to pay them for it. Maybe that opened the door for this to be a lot smoother than it otherwise would have been. But I'm glad that it seems to be headed that way.
I'll just put up here real quickly. I showed earlier. Innovation Edge, that's part of what they were talking about with talking quickly back to HCC. There's all kinds of stuff. I'll put some of it up on Blue Sky and elsewhere. But I want to talk now, Matt. We got the Fan Fest coming up here, Valentine's Day.
Hmm?
Man, this is it, brother. This is the year. It's funny. I would mention the governor. One of the things he was talking about was looking to see a successful team. He wasn't calling us out over the last few years, but nonetheless, it was interesting.
Are
So
they hosting it in the Trop?
they are hosting it in the Trop and
So
around the
this
Trop.
is the number one issue. The one thing I want, Mark, is a picture of the roof. And I want to know, does it look as dirty as it used to look? That's the
Well,
number one thing I want to know.
hopefully with the new paneling up there, that will
It'll be
not be the case.
a
But
clean white.
yeah, yeah. So yeah, there's the image of where it's going to be held. The Fan Fest shows you where the different lots and sets of parking, free parking, and a block party. So it looks like some of it's going to be outside.
Sweet.
Yeah, outside of Tropicana Field. I'm looking forward to that. I'm definitely going to be over. I went ahead and got my tickets, and yeah,
Yeah, no,
autograph.
that's a good time. I've seen a lot of the things that they do there normally. You can play ping pong with the players. You can do a whole bunch of different things that if you're a kid, like I never had access to players like this when I was growing up. I think it's great that they allow for this kind of event to take place. I know not everybody can make it, but definitely encourage everybody that can get head
Yeah.
out there, go see what it's all about.
I can tell you what Karen and I went to one at the Trop, and we got our photos taken with Blake and Tyler, Blake
Mhm.
Snell and Tyler Glass now. And that was just a treat in itself. Then there was another time was out there and they had a player scavenger hunt. So they got two players on top of this small stage, about 3 feet, 4 feet tall, about height 4 feet. And they are asking people different things they might have, and the players have to try to get them for those people as quickly as possible. So Pete's up on this 4 foot stage, and he's up for the mic, and he asks for something, and somebody pulls their hand out, and he leaps from that stage. I thought, oh my gosh, please stay safe. Please stay safe. But the energy he brought there, I always thought of him as this guy with such intense vision or a demeanor when he's on the mound. But he was a big, playful kid when at that fan fest. And as you were saying, some of them are even playing ping pong with other youngsters. It was a blast to watch.
Yeah, you get to see, how awestruck a lot of the kids are around them too. And sometimes a lot of the adults are even more awestruck.
Oh, yeah.
So it's fun to see that part too. Everybody becomes a kid again.
Should be a lot of fun, my friend. But what is that team going to look like now?
Oh man, that's a big question. So that leads into the moves that have been recently made, right?
Yep.
An interesting comment was made because Cody Bellinger finally chose the Yankees as his destination. He's getting paid a handsome amount, 167 million over 5 years. Yeah, that's a lot of money to send to a 31-year-old center fielder. And I don't know how that ends. I do know Cody Bellinger has a history of having played first base. So if ever he had to, shifting there. But then does he just become another DJ LeMahieu who ends up riding off into the sunset while gathering millions for not playing for the Yankees?
Oh,
Another one on that. Anyways, but the interesting part is that immediately as that, or I should say almost at the same time, because they must have chosen them. We don't know when the phone calls were made and the decisions were made, but at the same time, the Mets traded for Luis Robert Jr. from the Chicago White Sox. Basically, both targeted an outfielder of significance. It seems to me like the Mets finally drew a line in the sand with Cody Bellinger in terms of the amount of money they were going to throw at him. I think they're right because I'll go through the numbers, like just to lay it out in terms of basic terms. And I like to use both of them they're within 2 years of each other. Luis Robert Jr. is 28, so there's not much difference between the two. But Luis Robert is making 20 million in 2026. Cody Bellinger is going to make 32.5 million plus a 20 million signing bonus, right? So right there, one's making 52.5 million this year. The other one's making 20. So just to start from there. And I'm only going to compare the 2 years that Luis Robert is controlled for. I'm not even going to look at the other 3 years that Cody Bellinger is going to get paid obscene amounts of money. But so Luis Robert for next year, for 2027, can also make another 20 million, whereas Cody Bellinger is going to make $32.5 million that year. So combined, you're looking at 85 million that the Yankees are going to pay for Cody Bellinger over the next 2 years, compared to 20 minimum that or 22 million minimum because if the Mets buy out Luis Robert Jr., it's going to cost them $2 million. But if he does well and they decide to keep him, they have the option to keep him for 20 million. So it's a good risk mitigation for the Mets to say, let's see how he shows up this year,
right.
make him earn it, and then they get it. So to me, they get a more assurance that Luis Robert, first of all, 2 years younger, is still going to be in a good physical state to be able to perform. I think like when you're looking at the upgrade that he's going to be instead of Tyrone Taylor, it's a really significant upgrade for them in center field. So it's another great add after the Bo Bichette one. But like just looking at how far away it is from his best season, right? So 2023, he hit 38 home runs and stole 20 bases. He had an 857 OPS. If he gets anywhere near there with the Mets this upcoming year, they're going to the playoffs and they're going to do some damage. Like he's a really strong player. Now he's had two lackluster seasons after that. I think it's more team related than it is him related, but there's also been a few injuries in there as well that have slowed him down on both occasions. So you could go either way. I don't think it's an attitude problem. I've never seen him demand a trade or
Right,
and he
right.
had all rights to do it because that team's been going through a ringer basically for the last 2 years. But even though everybody else was getting traded, he stayed quiet, did his job, stuck around, never really demanded anything. So I think it's a good grab for the Mets. I think the Yankees look completely desperate, and they haven't really still gotten any better because now they're just back to where they were when the offseason started when it
Yeah.
comes to having Cody Bellinger aboard. But they had to do it. They had to bring him back, and it seems like a lot of the players getting deals right now are the ones that forced the teams to say you have to do something. And then so basically they accepted the deals that were out there. But yeah, I think when you're looking at those two teams, it's interesting that both of those moves happen concurrently. And then I think it helps the Mets more than just the Yankees who are treading water.
And you talk about how they've had the heavy weight of something like LeMahieu, him around him there. And it just seems like an antique team. We see that. We've seen Giancarlo Stanton, and they needed some vibrancy. So
Mhm.
maybe this will be part of the equation, if nothing else, just kind of a new energy for the fan base as well. Because I think a lot of people were looking at Brian Cashman and saying, "What's he going to do?"
Yeah. Definitely. And I don't know that there are other moves like the Yankees have surprised us on occasion with a trade, right?
Yeah.
I think that there is the opportunity now for them to say, okay, we brought Cody back, we've got that done. What does that do to our finances? Who do we want to go grab now and trade? And there's time before the season starts, and even when it does, to go and get that big piece. I don't, I doubt it would be pitching wise because they have enough of it, like starting pitching wise because
Hmm.
they have enough of it coming back from injury that they can't bring in too many guys yet.
Yes.
But I do think that you might see them make a significant roster move where they sort out another. So now they've brought in Cody. Does that force a trade of one of their outfielders to the young ones? Maybe, yeah. Because then it opens the door for a significant piece to come back in the other way.
Now that we see what everybody else is doing. No, those are some big moves. I'm really looking forward to seeing how Luis Robert does. I've always liked him. I thought of him almost like a quiet player in many ways. I've never thought him as one of these robust people who get out there and just throwing, not a Tommy Pham, so to speak.
Mhm.
But we'll see. I'm looking forward to how he performs there as well. But I keep looking at our Rays roster from last year, Matt, and I'm seeing low and low.
So I forgot why I even brought it up in terms of after all those moves were made, Chris Getz said that they're going to make a significant amount of moves now that they've cleared up the money from Luis Robert Jr. I have a hunch they're going to come asking for Johnny DeLuca. I think that he would be a perfect replacement for Luis Robert Jr. for the White Sox.
Yes.
I think that there's an opportunity for them to potentially ask for Taylor Walls as they wait for one of their top prospects to arrive. I think there's a significant number of moves that I could see the White Sox and Rays lining up on. So I don't know which one is going to be accurate. I do think the Rays want to clear up some outfields even beyond Josh Lowe.
Yeah.
The Lows are gone. Who is the one player that's newly added that you would be interested in meeting at FanFest?
We got Gavin Lux, didn't we?
Yep. Gavin
I
Lux
would
would be
like to
one for
see him
sure.
because he's had an interesting past, and
Mhm.
I want to see what he's going to be with the Rays. He's the one, for one reason or another, he's the one that pops the top of my mind. There's a lot of interesting players coming in, but he's the first one, I think.
Yeah, there's a good amount of, and the reason I ask is because Pete Fairbanks was always a character, right?
Oh,
He was
yeah.
always somebody that fans gravitated to. And I know Junior Caminero is one right now of the standing players that'll everybody will gravitate to because he has a loud personality and an aura. Yandy Diaz is another one that fans will gravitate to because they recognize him, they know him, he's been there for years. But of the guys that they brought in, I don't want to say that there's a lot of vanilla, but there's none of them that stand out as like loud and eccentric or unique in a lot of different ways that we know of yet. They may grow into those roles, I don't know. But it seems to me like it's going to be a good time to rub shoulders with them a little bit and see what their actual personalities are like if you're going to FanFest.
Cedric Mullins, I was a fan of his years ago with the Orioles. And as we
Mhm.
had Nathan Andrews on here recently for Full Count Chaos, it's, he's waned. I don't know, but we talked before about having him as a veteran. And
Mhm.
then I thought it was funny too, the scenario with Jake Fraley. We had him and we didn't, and then we brought him back. But now I still see, they said, I don't, vanilla may not be the word like you said, but there's nothing here jumping out at me. There's not the kind of energy as a personality that some of the ones we just mentioned. I don't see a Willie Adamas. I don't see a Tommy Pham, the type of individual.
Right. Richie Palacios is one that might be a little fun and animated to talk to. And Jacob Melton, maybe.
Yeah.
He would be one of the younger individuals they've brought in. I haven't seen an interview with Ryan Vilade yet or what his personality type is like. They also acquired another guy called Justin Henry Malloy. I don't know if he'll be at FanFest,
Hmm.
but he's a one that's has an extreme power bat that could play a big role in the outfield and at first base eventually. So seek him out. Steven Matz is another veteran that they brought in, probably more of a new face that fans aren't used to seeing at Rays Fan Fest. And Steven Wilson. You know how the Rays brought in a few veteran relievers over the years to keep everybody calm and allow some tomfoolery to happen in the pen? He seems to be like one of those type of guys that they've brought in, and they brought him in from the White Sox, I believe. So he's one of those guys that could end up being a little bit of a fool out there in FanFest.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. It should be a great event. I'm curious since it is going to be outdoors. There's obviously who knows what weather's going to let us do, but I'm sure the Rays have got that figured out pretty well. But I was hoping that we'd be able to go inside and see it. And quite honestly, knew that wasn't going to happen, knowing that we've got what 8 games on the road before we have opening day. And
Yep.
geez, they want to make sure that it is perfect before we step in there for then. So I'm looking forward to that. Yeah. Yep.
Uh, the
Oh,
the last player I'll mention is Ken Waldachuk. And I'll mention just a little bit about his profile a little bit. So for guys that don't know, Waldachuk's about 2 to 3 inches taller than Garrett Clevenger, but he throws from the same arm angle. So I don't know what that'll do for his pitch profile in terms of being a bit higher than Garrett Clevenger, but pitch mix wise, they could not be more different. And I wonder if the Rays are going to ask him to introduce slash change his pitch profile to be a little bit closer to what Garrett Clevenger offers, because they're both throwing from a 34-degree angle. I think that Clevenger is more of a sinker slider pitcher. Ken Waldachuk is actually a fastball slash curve slash changeup. I'm really curious to see how they alter his arsenal if they keep him in as a starter, because he throws about 93, 94 miles an hour as a starter. Can he get to 97, which is where Garrett Clevenger operates as a starter? There's a good chance he could get at least 96. 97, it depends on how much he wants to push it. And again, if he's only throwing his fastball like Clevenger does, which is about 12% of the time, probably he can push it to that much because he's not doing that the rest of the time.
yeah.
So Ken Waldachuk is one of those guys that'll be interesting to see when spring training starts, how they've asked him to alter his pitch mix and what they'll have him focus on for this upcoming season. The Rays, the one thing they always do is bring in a lot of talent and then just see how it goes and decide to ride which horses they're going to ride into the season.
I'm looking forward to seeing all of them and anybody who can do anything like Clevenger does. I am certainly excited about that. He's always been one of my favorite pitchers to watch out there on the mound and exciting big man. Now, that Waldichuk probably didn't have the same. Oh my gosh. But I don't know if he has the girth of Clevenger. I look at somebody like Clevenger, I figure, my gosh, I always think how much is on that frame as far as the power that comes out from behind it.
Yeah, I wish that they would weigh players when they walk onto the field. Like, like boxing and they announce it. And in this corner. So and when a reliever comes on the field, they could say, and in this corner, weighing 245 pounds. And they run onto the field and you can have a whole song the whole time that they run on. But the weights definitely are not right because you're right. When you're looking at some of these pitchers and how they throw, they're definitely way heavier than the stat sheet will say.
Oh yeah, man. No, it's going to be interesting, man. I can't wait to go out there on Valentine's Day and see what the team looks like, see the excitement. I know that Ken Babby, even seeing him there at the trustee meeting the other day and talking for a few minutes, the energy, the positivity that he's bringing in there, I think that's going to be a trademark, continue to be a trademark with the Rays. I don't think it was really lacking underneath Stu, the energy of the players and the team itself. Some people are quick to judge the last couple of seasons of the Rays and expect more. And I think Kevin might be on the broiler a little bit more this year than he is in the past. Kevin Cash and managing the team may be under a bit more scrutiny. So I don't know. Is he the longest tenured team manager right now?
If he's not, he's definitely one of the top two or three.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think he might be the longest tenured one. And honestly, I don't know. Like new ownership, it's always easier to start making those kinds of changes when after they come in. But from what we've been told so far, they're not going to get involved in baseball operations.
That's right.
They're going to let Eric Neander. If anybody's going to wear it first, it would be Eric Neander, and I think he's signed for a pretty decent amount of time. So I don't anticipate any issues on that front. They'll be pretty patient, I think, with how things are going to go. You're reading the tea leaves of the AL East. It's going to be a dogfight regardless of what they do. They could go out and sign every free agent that's left, and they would still have a hard time competing with the AL East the way that it's shaping out to be. So I think a lot of things are going to have to be team centric. You
Right.
saw how the Blue Jays came together last year and really you could feel that rhythm that the team was in where they were supporting each other. They were into every moment and kind of pulling. There was always somebody showing up at a great moment at the right time. That's what you need to win baseball games. And the Rays thankfully build that team concept from the bottom up, and they're able to put that into the players regardless. So no doubt in my mind they'll fight as much as they can. But yeah, I don't know talking to people online about what to expect this year. I think it might be the lowest that I've felt it since 2018 in terms of expectations.
Oh,
Yeah,
expectations.
yeah, I feel like they know, like fans and analysts and everybody are on board now. Like before, it was just the analysts underrating the Rays, right? For example, now I think everybody's kind of like, yeah, maybe they're not underrating the Rays this year. Maybe it actually is the Rays needing to take a breath before they move forward, basically.
Yeah. Yeah. I get that. You and I've said it before. They're just not paying attention to the Rays. We're a small market and they're
Mhm.
just not paying attention to this team. But yeah, after the last couple of seasons, criticism they have may sting a little bit more, but also because they probably have a little more veracity through the analysis of the team. So we will see. I don't want to think about rebuild years. I would like to see a strong team. We're going to see what this is going to be like. We know trades happen. We know the players come and go. We know Shane McClanahan, the future of what he's able to do for this team. It can make a big difference this year. I don't know. We'll see what happens with it. So I'm excited about it, my friend. But what else we have on the agenda today?
Today we had that and the MLBTR. We've talked a lot about the other thing is who got into the Hall of Fame, that Andrew Jones, Carlos Beltran, and Jeff Kent will share the stage. It's an interesting mix of players, but two center fielders, which you don't see. I don't think I can't speak to, have done the history bit but I imagine there hasn't been often where you have two center fielders getting in at the same time. So it's just fitting that their stats are so similar and they're getting in at the same time, having been in that same era. I don't know if Beltran will speak any Spanish at all on stage, but the Hall of Fame is always better the more that the story gets told. So I'm glad somebody is getting in.
Yeah.
I'm glad that important people of that era are getting in and are going to tell different stories about. First of all, you have an East Coast guy in Andrew Jones. You have a West Coast and Toronto, New York guy in Jeff Kent. And now you have Carlos Beltran, which almost did the entire country.
Mm.
So you've got a good mix of coverage in terms of fans that'll want to pay attention to what's being said. There's a lot of people that didn't really like, especially in the media, I think, Jeff Kent and how he interacted with them. It's a validation of his playing time instead of his personality, which I also like. So it proves the concept that what they have is a fail-safe for the voting is working and getting some of these players recognized how they should have been. And I took a quick peek at the 2027 class, Mark, and it's interesting what it does for next year. Because whenever you scratch people off the list, everybody else gets a little bit of a benefit and a little bit of a boost the following year.
Right.
So you're adding Buster Posey, John Lester, Brett Gardner, Ryan Zimmerman, and Irvin Santana, and Asdrubal Cabrera, Francisco Rodriguez as well. So you're adding some players that are going to be first ballot and gone. The other ones, though, like John Lester is a really interesting one because he's the same case as Andy Pettit, right? Where the glory of what he did in the playoffs
Yeah.
and battling cancer as well and doing a whole bunch of things on that front in terms of a health scare that he had. I don't know how much play he'll get. It seems to me like Chase Utley is almost an automatic next year. And Bobby Abreu could get a significant boost as well from some of the others that fell off. So he'll get a closer look, I think, for next year's percentages.
It's interesting, especially when you're looking at Beltran and Jones and you're saying maybe there's a kind of balance in their numbers there. They're coming in together. And so if one of them got in and the other one didn't, people can't be brouhaha about that's terrible. That he did this much better of whatever infinitesimal amount it might be. So I'm glad to hear they both came in together like that. That's great. It's great.
So the last thing that I thought that we should touch on is the MLBTR. I'm just going to tell everybody, go check it out. Tim Dierks wrote an article about how he feels. Essentially, he said he's using his platform to his benefit in this case. And the title is MLB Parity Possible Without a Salary Cap. And then he breaks down the entire story, and I think he does an excellent job doing it. Breaks it down in a lot of different formats. It's a long read, so get ready, folks. You're going to have to dry your eyes a couple of times. I know people like videos most times or podcasts, but take the time to read it because he does a great job of laying it out. There's a few parts I think he missed, but obviously you can't write a Bible on there. So just have a read through, see whether or not you agree with what he says. But either way, it'll make you more intelligent about the subjects that are going to come up in the next CBA because they're going to come up and they're going to be talked about ad nauseum. And it's good to set your own opinion early so that as things get brought up, you're like, wait a minute, what about this? How does it impact that? Tim Dierks. So it's Dierkes. I don't know exactly how you pronounce it. The French in me starts to come out when I start pronunciating some names sometimes. So I think he owns MLBTR, which is the Major League Baseball trade rumors, right?
Yeah.
The title is MLB Parity Possible Without a Salary Cap.
I'll make sure we put a link to that as well in the notes. So, folks, while you're enjoying Baseball Biz on Deck, make sure you take a peek down there. Also, make sure that you comment because we'd love to hear your comments about what you think about what Mr. Dierks has written there, plus what's going on with the Rays. And I don't really have anything else to add myself here, Matt.
Nope. I think we covered it off. We've got the world solved and figured out. Just a last little bit of a nugget. Yo Moncada is going back to the Angels on $4 million. And so they solved all their issues now as well. Yeah.
All righty. Okay, Mr. Matt, it's been yet another wonderful evening talking with you and covering everything baseball, looking at our Rays, but so much more. Folks, it's going to be an interesting year and can't wait to see what comes from the Hillsborough Community College agreement in 180 days. We will see. So we want to thank you all again for joining us here today on Baseball Biz on Deck, and we'll talk with you again real soon.
If you enjoyed this show, go ahead, like and subscribe to Baseball Biz on Deck. You may also find Baseball Biz on Deck on YouTube at iHeart Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, and at baseballbizondeck.com. Also, you can find Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. That's Matt at matgermain.bskysocial. Or Mark at baseballbizondeck.bskysocial and Baseball Biz on Deck with Facebook.